Tanner Magee, you're Speaker Pro Tem, second in command in the House, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Let me ask you one critical thing that drives me crazy. Y'all have the conference committee on House Bill 2, and nary a person from Northwest Louisiana is on that panel, the second largest city in the state. How does that happen?
Well, a lot of reasons. The speaker is going to put the people he trusts on that conference panel.
He doesn't trust Thomas Presley?
He does trust Thomas Presley a lot, actually. And I was just about to say, typically it's second and third termers who make the conference panel. But I think Thomas Presley's reputation, not just with the speaker, but with everybody, is sterling. But so typically from that pool of second and third termers is where it would come from. Usually it's the person who's in charge of the committee is one of the picks. So that would automatically be Stuart Bishop, and then you have two more people who can be on it. Usually the speaker puts himself on there, and then typically it's a third other person. Usually it's the opposition party has been the traditional Louisiana way of doing that. This term we've kind of gotten away from that as things have gotten more just supermajority and Republican dominated. We start putting Republicans on there. But, in retrospect, I think it's probably something that we should look at is going back to some sort of geographical way of doing it. Unfortunately, I'm just going to be straightforward and honest with you. I'm not sure there's anybody from Northwest Louisiana besides Thomas that
you understand our frustration in the fact that we, even before this debacle, North Louisiana, especially Northwest Louisiana, seems to be just completely ignored by Baton Rouge.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Me and Thomas, we both joke and seriously talk about it all the time. And Thomas brings legislators from around the state up there to visit Shreveport to show the infrastructure. I've been up there, Paula Davis, Jerome Zering, the chairman of appropriations, in an effort to get more awareness for Shreveport. The reality is, and I'm just going to be frank with you, is you have a group of, other than Thomas and Barrow Peacock and Greg Tarver, who really, I'm not sure that they care. They're more interested in making headlines about obstructing government than they are about doing people's work on the front end of, what can we do to move forward as a community. And sometimes those things are, and I hate to say it, mutually exclusive. And that's just the reality of politics. And then people can cry and they can be upset about it, but this is the way it's always been.
Are you saying they don't play well with others?
I'm saying they don't play well with others for the most part, yes.
Okay, then here's my question to you this morning, Tanner Magee, Speaker Pro Tem.
Sure.
The cutting out of the Houghton projects, yeah, it hurts Dodie Horton, but it hurts Houghton. The mayor of Houghton, the town of Houghton, they need these projects. The town of Benton, the oil cities, the Blanchards. Of course you're hurting the representatives, but you're hurting our small communities that some of these projects are critical.
Sure, and look, I feel bad for them, and I agree. But that's the reason why I make votes that sometimes I don't like. Sometimes that I have to say, well, this is it, but I can get, if I vote for this, I know I'll get these projects. And yeah, we're busting the spending cap, even though it's $700 million in debt payment, what I asked for when this whole process got started. We have $1.3 billion in the rainy day fund, 1.7 in the budget stabilization fund, all savings accounts, $70 million saved up in capital outlay. Teacher pay raises and law enforcement. All I have to do is do this with 2 votes, and I get to do a very conservative budget. It may not make everybody happy, but I get to take care of the people back home, and that's my job as a representative. So I can't completely sign off on the fact that that the representatives don't matter and that they just get to go up there and vote for anything they want, but then also claim that they were fighting for their communities when they made a conscious decision. They made a very conscious decision on what they wanted to do, and they literally said with that vote, when they voted against it, I would rather not spend this money, even though I know this money will go to my district. That's what they said when they made that vote. That's what their conscious decision was. I know this money could help my district, like you just pointed out, but I'm choosing not to because I don't think we should spend this money. It's either wasteful spending or it's not. It can't be both. And you can't go home and claim both. And that's what they want to do. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to sound fiscally conservative. I didn't spend the extra money. I kept it in my pocketbook. And I took all the people who were willing to spend the extra money for their communities, and I spent it on my district. That's kind of called hypocrisy. And so I do have a problem with that.
But the political shenanigans is what people in our state are tired of. And this
That's not political shenanigans. That's not political shenanigans. That's if you wanted to bust the cap to spend money. It's either wasteful spending or it's not. It can't be both. And so it's not political shenanigans. I can't say I'm voting against teacher pay raises and then actually say, and then when I get the teacher pay raises, for everybody say, I was for teacher pay raises. It just doesn't work that way. So they did not want to spend that money on their communities. They heard from their mayors, they heard from their people, and said they would rather save that money or apply it to debt. That's the decision they made. If their constituents are upset with them, I think they should be, to be honest with you. And I think they should probably look at electing new people who are willing to say, hey, I know this might look bad in the public eye, but I know this money can go to some really good stuff for my people that they need, as you pointed out. And I agree with that. And that's tough. I mean, but that's kind of, the job that we're signed up to do.
I see your point, but it's almost like my way or the highway, and, and your town's going to hurt if you don't do it my way. That's,
No,
and
but how unfair would it be for me? I have the same kind of constituents that Doty and Allen and Daniel Cormick have, that they don't like. They read the newspaper and they read the fake reports, to be honest with you, about this is some sort of spending spree, because it's really not. It's actually a very conservative budget. But I get all those same complaints.
Mm-hmm.
How unfair would it be for me, though? I'm willing to do it to help the local people, and then I don't get to spend the money because Doty does. That's not fair.
I understand your point.
I'm willing to take the political heat to help out my small towns in my area, and they're not. I mean, that's just the reality. It would be unfair to me.